everybody. So good to be live with you. So, just this week, the World Economic Forum has kicked off in Davos, Switzerland, and then just a few hours away in Geneva, Switzerland, the World Health Assembly is underway. So, I am going to touch on both of those today, as well as give you the latest what you need to know on monkeypox, the latest hysteria. Hopefully, my internet connection's okay out here. I am visiting family in Wisconsin right now. Okay, so I've got a lot of sound bites from the World Economic Forum. They are back meeting in person, planning global affairs. And I know we've heard a lot of scary sound bites out of World Economic Forum before. Just sound bites that give people a lot of pause. Like when at previous World Economic Forums, global leaders have been talking about how surveillance is now going to go under our skin. What does that mean? And you know, that was Yuval Noah Harari, who's a part of the World Economic Forum. He spoke that many times, as well as the Pfizer CEO speaking at previous World Economic Forum, saying, "Oh yeah, I'm thrilled that the FDA has now approved new technology that's a chip that goes inside the pill when you ingest it. Then the chip tracks you and remotely tells others that you've taken the pill." Stuff like that is like, huh, what are they planning at World Economic Forum? Okay, can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, I feel like something's up with my mic here. Let me make sure it's okay. Okay, so that is why a lot of people are like, what is the World Economic Forum all about? And now there is a funny, interesting article, CNBC, how Davos became a target for conspiracy theorists and anarchists. And so it's kind of making fun of everyone who's paused and had alarm over a lot of the sound bites coming out of previous World Economic Forums. And it's interesting, a lot of the media is now rebranding World Economic Forum this time around as just calling it the Davos Forum. I guess there's a little bit too much concern about what happens with World Economic Forum. I'm going to dive into some sound bites that came out of there today. Before I do, shout out to the sponsor of my coverage, Amazing Clean Air. Check this out. A recent study reveals that our home's indoor air is up to 5 times more polluted than outdoor air. The study also says that lead, radon, tobacco, smoke, and more can all increase the toxicity in our home's air. This is why I'm such a huge fan of home air purifiers. This device uses best-in-class purifying technology to scrub 99.7% of indoor air pollutants. It is 3-stage purification process, makes your home's air healthier for you and your family to breathe. I noticed a huge difference after just the first night with it running in the background. I woke up feeling like I had the best night's sleep. So if you want to make your home healthier, get a portable. Go to www. Come below to get yours. Here it is. I've got mine with me. Portable, 3-level pure air purifier. Highly recommend it. Link down in description. Okay, so CNBC is trying to debunk your fears over target for conspiracy theorists and anarchists. Nearly 2,500 global leaders from business, politics, and civil society are expected to take part in a rare springtime version of Davos this week. They go on to write. Bill Gates will be in attendance, as well as George Soros. Bill Gates is actually speaking to cut out. Am I back yet, guys? So Bill Gates speaking tomorrow at World Economic Forum. His topic is going to be preparing for the next pandemic. Gates has everything in the works. I already know he's going to talk about we need more needle factories. he's written about this on his personal blog. To more adequately prepare for the next pandemic, we need more needle factories. So that, we need the multiple in every in every continent, so that needles can be quickly disseminated more quickly than last time. Okay, one interesting thing that was discussed at World Economic Forum today, and it's going all the way through Thursday, tons of panels, tons of topics, but they were talking about artificial intelligence and government surveillance, and I know that's a thing that concerns a lot of people right now. One of the panels, and I've linked down below to their schedule if you want to see it, World Economic Forum's schedule this week. But today there was a panel called AI on the Street, and it was interesting. Takeyuki Morita is a man who is the CEO of NEC Corporation dealing with IT, and he spoke about the fact that artificial intelligence, biometrics, and 5G are all connected right now. Biometrics is the ability of a computer to read something like your fingerprint, your iris, or your face and immediately recognize your identity. So he's saying that artificial intelligence would be, it's connected to the biometrics, which means computerized bots can pick up who you are right away based on your identity. I know that the state of Texas is dealing with this right now. They're suing Facebook because Facebook has been collecting people's biometrics in regards to their face associated with filters that a lot of people put on their face, most popularly on Insta Stories, which is owned by Facebook. So Texas has temporarily banned face filters through Instagram right now. State of Illinois has as well at last check. In regards to Facebook storing the data that they collect, their computers map out your face. And what are they going to do with that? The White House has already said they're working with Facebook to a certain extent. So is the government going to be tracking us, based on having a map of our face and seeing who we are? So this man from NEC Corporation, CEO, saying artificial intelligence, the biometrics, and 5G are all connected. He didn't explain how 5G is connected, but he clearly stated that was very interesting. And he said the issue is it's not clear who is handling the data and how, and that is the biggest issue. That this technology has advanced to the point where companies are collecting data that enables them or someone to track us very closely. But who is handling that data? Are governments handling that data? And how are they handling it? So he's saying this is a concern. The panel went on to talk about that their companies do indeed have a lot of data that they don't want to have, including cameras tracking people and phones tracking people. So let me play for you some sound bites. Make sure you guys can hear me out here in Wisconsin. Okay, so let me play for you. One of the people on the panel was Angela Odor Lungati, if I'm saying that right. She is a Kenyan born in Ukraine. She is sounding the alarm against the surveillance. Take a listen.
I remember, I think 2 years ago, we went out with a bunch of friends, and to be granted entry into the building, they required our facial recognition data. And I was probably the only person amongst the whole group who asked, why are you collecting this data and how are you going to make use of it? And one of the scary things for me in that case is that it sheds a light into how oblivious many people are about what risks these technology tools actually create or might expose them to. In our case, I don't think anybody's asking you for consent. Nobody's telling you who's going to get access to this data and what's going to happen to it afterwards. And so that's a huge gap. I think we're also very well aware of how these technology tools or the AIs also exacerbate existing inequalities, propagating some biases that already exist. And that is largely a function of who is building these tools and the kinds of data that are fed into these systems, right? And I think that's why we have groups like Black in AI and researchers like Dr. Timnit Gebru who are doing quite a lot to shed light into the challenges around this. And of course, one of the biggest ones that's also been mentioned is this idea of over-policing, right? And how there could be much more surveillance being propagated on ordinary people or proportionately discriminating marginalized groups under the guise of trying to use us to predict criminal activity. So that would be my perspective.
Thank you, Angela. Very important point, I think, the point about how the system is trained. So most of the systems use deep learning. You're familiar with deep learning as a type of AI, and what you do, you train it with a set of faces, and then it learns how to recognize those faces later. And clearly, the training set sometimes has biases, so it can recognize better or worse certain type of faces, or based on the features, color, and so on. And so that's another issue. This issue probably is more easily solvable because it's a technical issue than the rest about how it's being used. And I'd like to get back to what you were saying about over-policing and bring this to Minister Rao, because I know that really in your state, Minister, over-policing with facial recognition has, I think, created a significant debate.
Did you see her face when he's like, yeah, the facial recognition technology can analyze skin color as well, and she's just like, yeah, who's a fan of that? Not me. So I want to go on to another man on the panel. Representative from India named KT Rama Rao. He is talking about how the Indian government has really implemented this artificial intelligence facial recognition sort of technology already to quite a great extent, and he's actually a fan of it. Here it is.
Artificial intelligence in our government. I would give you 4 examples which will tell you on how we have benefited citizens at large from government to citizen interface, on the government to citizen interface. And the first thing I'll tell you is about a very, very unique program that we run called as RTDAI, Real-Time Digital Authentication of Identity. Now, this is basically consensual. The citizen has to give a consent that I am okay for my identity or my face being recognized, in order to get some services delivered. For example, if I'm a senior citizen, I'm 65 plus, I receive a pension from the government. Now, to be able to obtain it, all I have to do is look into my phone, send a picture to a specific number, and that's about it. So therefore, you don't actually have to go physically to an office, saves you time, saves you energy, decarbonizes the world as well. The second example I'll tell you, in fact, which I think is extremely important, renewal of a driver's license. You already have taken the driving test, you're already there, but it has been given for a specific period, so you're renewing it. You actually don't have to physically go to the DMV, the Director of Motor Vehicle. You could renew your driver's license in my state on a Sunday, because using simple facial recognition. That's the second thing I'll tell you. The third thing I'll tell you, which I think is equally important, we all talk about voting and how people need to participate in large numbers in a democracy. We've tried in a local election to give using facial recognition, giving people e-voting. I think Estonia has tried it, a number of other countries have done it. We've also tried it, and it has been very, very successful as a pilot. So if you use a consensual method, if you ensure that citizens actually are given choice of consent, and then also ensure that the government and the officials in the government are educated, not to be, or educated and also limited in terms of their access to the data. I think it's a win-win solution. Yes, there has been criticism, there has been concerns, but by and large, I think it has been a successful model, and it's been helping the society at large. So.
The panel goes on to discuss how people react when given the option to be tracked and surveilled or not.
We did this experiment of putting some facial recognition in the Biennale, but then we asked a university in the US called Cooper Union to do a little sticker you could put on your forehead in order to be out of the system. And guess what? Over 50% of the people, or the Chinese people going to the Biennale, actually would put the sticker. So there's also something that maybe some assumption, some preconception also, because we we don't necessarily ask everybody, do you want it or not? But I take your point about,
Can I make we had a building where we had a very simple camera that would register the plates of the cars. And the tenant said, hey, we don't want to do that because then we can really see when people come in and come out. But then we asked the tenants, the individuals using the parking garage, do you want to opt in or opt out? 100% opted in. Because it was so easy that car door, that door of the garage opened up automatically instead of having to push a button, etc. And what you see is that a lot of people actually want to opt in if it has a benefit to their daily lives.
So that is interesting that the option to opt out you would have to wear a sticker right here. Who's going to want to wear a sticker right there saying they don't want to be surveilled? Interesting discussions. I wanted to show you actually the intro from Klaus Schwab, the founder of the Economic Forum. He's discussing the topics that they will be talking about this week. Like I said, Bill Gates coming up tomorrow is going to be talking about how he is preparing for the next pandemic. But here's Klaus Schwab today introing it.
The theme of our coming together is history at a turning point. Government policies, corporate strategies. We will focus the program mainly on 4 different areas. First, the war in Ukraine, the aggression on Ukraine.
Yeah, so those are his issues. He went on and on about Ukraine at that point, so I just cut it off. But he was a big fan of Ukraine. He actually had Volodymyr Zelensky Skype in for an extended period to talk about it, and he said that Zelensky, we got you because whatever you're going through affects us. On another panel today, there was a big discussion of why the U.S.'s economy is suffering so much. And panelists discussed, the fact that we've been overprinting money. It's kind of the reason. But it was interesting. They got into talking about digital currencies and cryptocurrencies, and the PayPal CEO was there on the panel, Dan Schulman. PayPal is a website that allowed users, one of the first websites to allow users to actually pay through Bitcoin, which is a big deal. Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency that cannot be manipulated due to blockchain technology design, and that's different than government-run digital currencies. People get confused about the difference. There's a reason that government leaders hate Bitcoin. Some governments have banned Bitcoin. They say terrible things about Bitcoin. It's because governments can't control Bitcoin. It's different than other currencies. And so don't get it confused with government designed currencies, digital currencies, which are way different. And he kind of, the PayPal CEO kind of tries to tell people the difference in his highly advanced understanding of this that flies over a lot of people's heads.
Broader impact of the Ukraine war.
I think people always conflate 4 different things when they talk about crypto or digital currencies. There's kind of cryptocurrencies that are an asset class that people trade in. Then there is kind of programmable money, which is something very interesting where you can add utility to payments by creating software around that payment that allows you to do something you couldn't have done in just the traditional payment sphere. I think that's very interesting. There's stable coins, and I think stable coins actually have some very interesting use cases to them. They have to be backed one by fiat currency. It can't be and you have to disclose it. And I think the legislation that I think is very helpful in doing that. But to Adina's point on a stable coin, if you have a stable coin, it's 24/7. You can fundamentally reorient B2B. For instance, 24/7, no intermediaries can take costs out of the system. I think there are real use cases for a stablecoin that are tremendously interesting, but it's got to have trust and it's got to be backed completely. And then you have central bank issued digital currencies, which, many of us have, different opinions, like how could that work? What, is it necessary? Why? But there you have the full faith and backing of the government behind that central bank issued digital.
It's that technological advancement of money. See,
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the way to look at
And
it.
the programmable feature, I think, is huge.
Yeah.
I think we probably can't even imagine the applications that will come about from the ability to build into money itself an automatic transaction that occurs based on some extraneous event that's verifiable.
Yeah.
That's, I think, going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
So that last person who spoke is Senator Pat Toomey from Pennsylvania. I didn't know that he was working on passing legislation regarding digital currencies, which again, digital currencies is what a lot of people fear for a good reason, because again, it's government manipulated currency. It's different from Bitcoin, which is blockchain unmanipulatable. Senator Pat Toomey is the same senator that one of my YouTube viewers, Doug, wrote an email to, got a response in regards to the World Health Assembly, also happening this week, also happening in Switzerland. And Senator Toomey's response was interesting. It kind of went back and forth and was confusing. I want to read it again for you guys a little bit before we get into what's happening at World Health Assembly this week. So Toomey said, in response to this viewer being concerned about the fact that there is a list of recommended amendments to the Global Treaty on Health presented by the Biden administration, some clauses of which give more cut out. Looks like my connection cut out again. Hopefully I'm back. So the World Health Director, why would we want to give him more power to decide single-handedly whether there is a health emergency or not? Maybe he's a guy who's extra scared of monkeypox and is going to call a global health emergency when there's only 92 cases right now and we don't need to call it a global health emergency. Why would we leave that up to one man? Because right now how the treaty is written is that all of the nations get to decide. I think it's 194 nations globally who are part of this treaty. They all get to have their say on whether something's a health emergency. But right now the U.S. wants to allow Tedros to have single-handed control of whether we decide to call a global health emergency and the economic repercussions that might lead to, like we saw in 2020. So the viewer writes into Senator Pat Toomey voicing his concern, and Toomey said in part here, quote, "As you may know, if the President of the United States decides to sign an international treaty, 2/3 of the United States Senate must ratify the treaty before it takes effect. It's like we cut out again. All right. So Toomey says he is strongly opposed to any attempt to ignore the constitutional authority of the Senate. That said, he goes on, the president has the ability to enter into executive agreements and political commitments between heads of state without the consent of the Senate. However, neither executive agreements nor political commitments are binding under domestic U.S. law, and both can be revoked or reversed unilaterally by subsequent administrations. So basically, he just said, well, Biden can't do anything without us senators signing the treaty or signing off on this treaty. Then he goes on to say, actually, Biden can. He can just enter into agreements with other governments, and then a later administration would have to reverse that. And, you know, we've seen how the Biden administration has single-handedly enacted things like mask mandates on planes, which were later ruled unconstitutional by federal court. So the Biden is already creating this record of just making big moves that impact people's lives. I mean, he almost got the needle mandate through for corporate employees, for corporations of 100 or more people, and he was trying for that, but the court struck it down. Now he succeeded in the mask mandate. It's clear that something like this, if he entered a global treaty, a global agreement without the Senate's consent, and he told Americans they had to do certain things because Tedros, the WHO leader, said so. If Biden said that, according to our history in the past 2 years, those things would indeed be things that the American people would have to do. If Tedros says, for example, that monkeypox is sweeping the world and everyone needs a monkeypox needle, and Biden said, all of us Americans got to do it now because we have a new treaty with Tedros. According to America's history, in regards to things like mask mandates, Congress did not have our backs. Congress did not have the American people's backs in that situation. So I'm just saying that I think it is something to be concerned about this week, the World Health Assembly. And I am told that that vote on the treaty amendments is supposed to take place tomorrow at the World Health Assembly meeting in Geneva, Switzerland, which is about 5 hours away from where the World Economic Forum is meeting right now. I wanted to show you guys this article on the World Health Assembly from Washington Post. Quote, global health talks clouded by conspiracy theories about pandemic treaty. This article, they actually changed the headline of that article. It used to say World Health Assembly clouded by pandemic treaty backlash, because the American people are backlashing. And I don't think it's just the Americans, people from other countries too, are sending a lot of backlash in regards to these treaty amendments. But the way the original headline was written, backlashing. So they had to try to, smear and belittle these people by calling them conspiracy theories. So they rewrote it. Quote, global health talks clouded by conspiracy theories about pandemic treaty. And guys, I've already done 2 YouTubes on this pandemic treaty. So if you want the intricate details of it, you got to check my YouTube last week. WHO Power Grab 101, I think is what I titled it. And I linked to the actual amendments that we're discussing, where you can actually see the amendments drafted by the American government, and see Biden's point person who signed off on these amendments. So it says here, Washington Post, quote, global health leaders gathered in Geneva on Sunday to discuss the pandemic are facing another viral problem, a visceral, passionate online backlash that falsely accuses the World Health Organization of conspiring to take power from national governments. The World Health Assembly, the decision-making body of the WHO's 194 member states, is holding its first fully in-person event in 2 years as some illness-related restrictions are lifted. While the Assembly, now in its 75th year, is usually considered a dry, technocratic event, this year it's being framed by conspiracy theorists as a key moment in the battle between democracy and tyranny. The theories focus largely on the discussion of a pandemic treaty, a potential agreement that could one day regulate how countries prepare for and respond to future pandemics. Though such a treaty will not be agreed upon at the Assembly, the backlash has spread fast and far and beyond the world of global health. Yeah, I think it goes on to say that, the final draft, 2024, is when this treaty would take full effect, 2024. So they're, after calling names to all the people who are concerned about their individual liberty, down in the middle of the article, they talk about how it's 2024 that the treaty would actually go through, which Senator Toomey in his letter talked about that as well. He says here, WHO member states will have until August 2022 to decide upon an initial draft, and a final agreement will be ratified in May of 2024. The Biden administration has publicly stated that while it will take part in negotiations, it will ultimately oppose a binding treaty. Really interesting that Toomey is saying that when it was the Biden administration that presented these amendments to begin with. Now, speaking of global health, we've got a big new concern about monkeypox. And I did want to touch on monkeypox today. So the latest is that there are 92 cases globally of monkeypox, 12 countries in total. It's similar to smallpox. People who had the monkeypox needle, here's the key. According to CNBC, citing World Health Org, they say that people who had monkeypox, who had smallpox in the arm, when they got it in the arm, the needle, they have an 85% immunity to monkeypox. That's how similar monkeypox is to smallpox. Now, I've previously covered the fact that a lot of American parents have stopped giving their kids needles in the arm. I just wonder, those childhood needles, I just wonder if all this hysteria is a global push to get more parents to go back to the doctor with their kid and load their kid back up with all the needles like parents used to do, because the government likes parents to take their kid in multiple times to get 30 or so needles in the arm by the time they are 5 years old. And now, after the pandemic, parents are starting to think for themselves and be like, why am Sorry for the spotty service, guys. So monkeypox is unique in that it takes a long time to incubate. So by the time you finally show symptoms, who knows where you got the monkeypox from. I want to show you an image of what monkeypox actually looks like. World Health Organization has this on its website. Again. Cut now. Okay, hopefully we're back. Yeah, so as you can see, these are big old rashes and infections that happen on your face and your arms and hands. I'm told even on the soles of your feet as well. And it's interesting, breaking news today, the Associated Press is saying that this illness likely spread, appears to have spread between men having sex with each other, spreading monkeypox, according to the Associated Press and CNBC. Now, this is 92 cases globally in 12 countries. The reason health officials are raising alarm is because prior to this, it was only confined to Africa, and people are wondering why monkeypox is suddenly surfacing in Europe. Again, this is an insanely low number of cases, but health officials are like, why has it suddenly surfaced here? Monkeypox is not, it doesn't spread easily. You have to have super close contact, but it does, according to these health officials, it does remain on surfaces for quite a while. The illness of the monkeypox can stay alive, like on a bed sheet, for quite a matter of time, so that if someone else got on that bed sheet, they could pick up the illness themselves. So I've linked down below a really interesting thought from Christina Borgeson, who's former CBS reporter, as I recall. She had a similar situation to me where her news network suppressed facts on the ground and punished her in regards to the real cause of a plane crash. Anyway, she's out of the corporate news industry and seeking truth now. She had an interesting guest on who talked about the fact that monkeypox is actually used. Monkeypox is actually used in testing in biolabs, in messing around with the creation of smallpox. If you were to spread smallpox, the way that researchers look at how smallpox could spread is by using the monkeypox illness in these biolabs. So I linked her segment on that down below. The question is, did something come out of a biolab in Europe? Because we know things are going down in Europe right now, and there's biolabs in Ukraine. So she just puts that thought into our heads, which is something we should indeed think about as well. Now, I wanted to play a soundbite for you from Biden. He was asked about monkeypox today. Here it is.
Mr. President, quick question. What have your health advisors told you your level of concern should be about monkeypox in the cases that are in the United States and around the world?
Well, they haven't told me the level of exposure yet, but it is something that everybody should be concerned about. We're working on it hard to figure out what we do and what vaccine, if any, may be available for it. But it is a concern in the sense that if it were to spread, it's consequential. That's all they've told me.
There is a needle for monkeypox that's already been developed. I think it came out in 2019. But Time Magazine has an Okay, so it looks like this is probably not going to spread. And I want to give you guys, it's not going to spread far. The death rate is known to be higher from monkeypox, higher than other illnesses, up to 10% in some areas, but with better healthcare in developed countries, it's closer to 1 or 2%. From monkeypox. Now, I want to give you guys some perspective by looking back to 2017. Tucker Carlson covered this issue in 2017. This is not the first monkeypox scare we've had. As you'll recall, throughout the 21st century, news has been scaring people with various illnesses, saying that they're going to sweep the world. They never do. 2020 is the first time it actually happened, and now people take these scares a little more seriously and are like, hey, back off, government. But here's the thing. Tucker Carlson featured this monkeypox scare back in 2017. It was a scare back then. It didn't develop into anything. Hopefully it won't again this time. Here's Tucker's segment.
Well, parts of Africa are seeing a deadly outbreak of a disease called monkeypox. It's been around for a while, and it pops up occasionally in a big way right now. The disease is incurable. It could reach this country before we know it's coming. It's got a long incubation period of about 16 days. What's the nature of the threat, and is it one to this country? Dr. Ashini Raj is an associate professor of medicine at NYU Langone Health, which is a terrific place, and she joins us tonight. Doctor, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
So if it takes a couple of weeks for a person infected with monkeypox to show symptoms, that suggests you could have people coming over here with it, and then they get sick from it in the United States. What happens then? How contagious is it? What are the effects?
Well, the good news is it's not very easily spread between person to person. It's actually more easily spread from a wild animal to a person. But it can be spread amongst human beings, and that's usually through respiratory droplets, but very close contact. So a caregiver of someone who's sick with this virus, that's the kind of person who'd be more prone to get it. But it's still concerning because, as you said, it can be fatal in up to 10% of cases. That's a pretty deadly kind of virus.
Is there any kind of defense against it?
There's no treatment for it. Now, it is similar to smallpox. So the smallpox vaccine does offer some protection against the monkeypox. However, it's not specifically designed for it, and there is no specific treatment for it other than supportive care. Occasionally, a general antiviral medication can be given in very severe cases, but it doesn't always work.
Huh. So if you had an outbreak in this country with obviously the most advanced medical care in the world, do you think you'd still see a 10% fatality rate?
I mean, the range is between 2 to 10% in terms of fatality, and because our care is so great in this country, we would hope to be closer to the 1 or 2% level. But again, there is no actual cure for it. So certainly immunocompromised people, young children would be more prone to really succumbing to this virus. So it still could be very deadly even in this country, which is why it's so important that scientists from this country are over in Africa trying to really get a better handle on what causes it, how is it transmitted, because we can't just sort of keep our head in the sand and think it's over there, it's far away. As you said, we're a global society now. Anything can come here in a matter of a couple days.
As with so many diseases.
That's right.
Dr. Rush, thank you very much for your perspective.
Thank you.
Sorry about my mic issue. I'm seeing your comments right now. My mic is turned all the way up here, so I literally don't know what's going on with broadcasting on the road. But again, that soundbite was 2017, slightly outdated. They do now have a needle and more treatment abilities for this illness. But again, there have been scares in regards to it, and it's an illness that's been in existence in Africa and hasn't done a ton of damage as far as, spreading far and wide. So I think this is just another scare, and I think that a lot of Americans' reactions to scares at this point are like, good Lord, please, like, government, lay off of us. We're not afraid of the illness. We're afraid of you, government. We're much more afraid of government taking our freedom than an illness taking our lives. So I've noticed that's definitely people's reactions. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and hopefully we can fix these tech issues so we can go live again tomorrow before I head home. I shouldn't be telling people my plans, but here we are live. Thanks so much for tuning in. Share this video, like and subscribe. I never tell people to do that. I always forget. Like and subscribe. It helps my broadcasts. And we will see ya soon. Bye.